Welcome to series of database management system lectures. Today we'll be discussing about Unit 2, Topic 5, that is anomalies in relational model. Now, what do we mean by an anomaly? What is an anomaly? Anomaly can be taken as an error or any loss of data or any mistake that has encountered while doing any kind of operation in the database. So, how these anomalies have been occurred at what point of time? Now, when we have a database, then what can be the operations that can be performed with the database? Creation, insertion, deletion, updation, right? So, these are the various operations that can be performed on the database. While performing these operations, there is a probability of losing of data or going with incompleteness of data or encountering with an error of data. So that is called as an anomaly. Now, these anomalies are subcategorized into three: insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies, and then updation anomalies. Before we get into this, let us have a glance of data. Let us have a glance of data so that we'll be able to trace out what kind of anomaly it is. Now here we have an example of student table. In the student table, this is table 1. In the student table, we have 6 columns of data. We have 6 columns. And how many rows that we have? 4 rows of data, right? So the first attribute here is student number, for first field name is student number, name, phone number, and then state, country, and age. So these are the attributes or the fields of student table. We have a complete data which is available for first record. There is no incompleteness of data for the first record. Everything is filled here. Second record is also complete data. Third record is also complete data. Whereas fourth record is not complete. So here you have student number, name, but phone number is not available with us. So this unavailability of data may either lead to missing of data or the person may not be allotted with any contact number. So there can be a chance of having any of these. Now, with this incompleteness of data, you cannot perform any kind of operations. We need to either make it as null or we need to either fill with any other alternative values. But never incompleteness of data should be maintained, which is going to disobey the principles to the database. Right? Now look at the second table, that is student codes. Here we have student number. Student number is going to be a primary key here, as this helps us to retrieve the record uniquely from the table. Now the same primary key attribute is also being mentioned here so that you will have a connectivity. So now there will be a connectivity of this record with this record from the table codes. Now in student course table, we have student number, course number, and then course name. Course number is going to be a primary key of this course table. Student number is going to be a foreign key, which is going to create a link from student table to course table, right? So now, when we are trying to retrieve the information from both the tables, we should have a strong association between these. That's the reason we are going with the second type of constraint, that is foreign. Now, as we have already mentioned that we have three different types of anomalies. The first one is insertion anomaly. Let us look at this data, how this insertion anomaly is going to occur. Now, I wanted to insert the record of student number 6. I wanted to give the course name to be C3 and the subject name could be OPG, right? So now, in this context, I wanted to insert this record, but this record is not going to be allowed as there is a relation or a link which is maintained to the student table, and we don't find a record with a student number 6. So I will not be able to insert this record as there is no associated record which is available in the table. So this type of insertion of a data is called as insertion anomaly. Now the next one is deletion anomalies. Now see, I wanted to delete record 2, student roll number with the 2. I wanted to delete this record. Now, while deleting the record, if I have just written a command to delete only this record, what about the connectivity? Do I have any connection of this record associated with another table? Yes, I have connection to this. And for this record, I have connection to this, right? So as I have a connectivity with respect to the other table, if I am attempting to delete this record of data, then make sure that there should be an alternative thing that should be done. So this sort of deletion can be taken place with two alternatives. One is on delete or update null. This is the first alternative. And the second alternative could be on delete or update cascade. So now this indicates if you are trying to delete a record associated with the student number 3, student number 2, first option tells us that you make all the associated data to be null. That means with this two, make all the data items to be null. Okay. So you have a connection. That's the reason you should refer it with the help of this null values. The next one is on delete update cascade. So what we need to do is that we need to delete even the data items which are available in the referencing relation, right? Even this data is also going to be removed. This is what called as on delete update cascade. So this is with respect to deletion anomaly. And the next type is update anomaly. Now, while updating the data, now with student roll number 1, I wanted to modify the course name to be not DBMS. Instead, I wanted to give it as Python. I wanted to change this. So, whatever the changes which are reflected in this course table should be referenced using this connection, right? So now, if any kind of changes that are being made for any field, there must and should be a proper updation that should be done. Now I wanted to change the name of the student to be Amar. Right? I need to refer that student roll number one, whose I wanted to update the name to be as Amar, where student roll number is one, right? Or if I wanted to modify the post number, then you need to refer to this connectivity. So without that, you will not be able to perform the operation properly. So these are the three different types of anomalies that may occur while using the relational database. Moving on to the next one, what are the advantages while dealing with anomalies in the relational database? One is data integrity. What is data integrity? Throughout the database, if any kind of changes that are being made, there should not be any inconsistency of data. Whatever the changes that we are applying to, whatever the changes that we are applying to the data, it should uniformity to be maintained throughout the database. The second advantage is scalability. So though the data design an application in such a way that the database is large enough to store the data, and it should also be able to handle without compromising the performance of the data. It doesn't mean that if we are storing hundreds of records in the database, and retrieval response time should never be compromised, right? By maintaining that performance, you should be able to handle the data. The third advantage is flexibility. Yes, we always feel comfortable while accessing to the content in the database while writing the commands. So this helps us to have a better accessibility to the data. It should not violate the process of authorizations, and the allotted users with the proper access privileges are allowed to access to the data. The next one is security. Now, with the database management system, we have three different types of users. One is database owner, database user, and the third one is database administrator or super user. With respect to these three different levels, you are going to provide high level of security to the data. Next, drawbacks of the anomalies in relational database. Redundancy. Now, in order to overcome with this anomalies, you are going to reduce that or decompose that tables into smaller subtables. So, which is again making us to handle more number of tables, multiple number of tables, and then there will be a huge repetition of data. Second one is complexity. As we need to deal with a multiple number of tables in the background to retrieve the data for one particular record, we need to access multiple tables there, which will also have a very bad impact upon the performance of the total system. And finally, incapacity to manage unstructured data. So with respect to this anomalies, we will not be able to handle with any unstructured kind of data. Only the textual data is allowed to perform this kind of anomalies that can be resolved. And finally, how do these anomalies are removed completely? With the help of a concept called as normalization, we will be able to overcome with this anomalies. So normalization concept will be covered in the next session. Thank you.